Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video, and I'm going to be talking about some of Hot Toys' recent pre-orders. So mainly I'm going to be talking about the release date of their more recent figures in this video, just because I'm very disappointed with some of the more, modern release dates. I think that they've become a little outrageous. Not just crazy or ridiculous, but just outrageous. So let's talk about it. So I discussed this a bit when I did my video just discussing the new Hot Toys Mysterio figure, which is a figure that I'm incredibly excited for and I think looks fantastic. So don't get me wrong, the figure looks great, really happy about it, and just is a beautiful figure. Same thing with another figure that came out recently, their battle damaged Iron Man from Endgame. I think it looks like a beautiful figure. I cannot wait for it, and an absolute must-have. Both of these, to me, I love the figure of, and they're must-haves for me, but they both have something very similar in common, and that's the release date. The release date is ridiculous for both because they're the exact same for both, between July and September of 2021. That is 2 years away. And assuming that it doesn't get delayed or anything, it is 2 years away 100%, which I think is crazy. If you've been collecting Hot Toys for several years, you will know that the average release date for a Hot Toys figure is about a year out. That's your standard. Sometimes it's sooner. A lot of the times it's sooner, actually. Sometimes it's a little longer, that certainly. There are some very rare occasions where you do get something that's similar to 2 years with, like, the Hulkbuster. The Hulkbuster was one that when it went on pre-order, it did not have a 2-year out release date. However, it got delayed so many times, and it had a very large delay sometimes. Like, there was a 6-month delay one time, that became the fact where it took 2 years to finally come out. I believe it took 2 years. I want to say it took a little under 2 years actually for Hulkbuster to come out. But it had a very long release date in the end, because it was not scheduled for that originally, but it had setbacks that caused it to be about 2 years. Now, I've very rarely ever, I think actually right now is the first time that I've ever seen this, where Hot Toys is starting to put figures on pre-order that have release dates that are 2 years out. Like, from the time that they put it out, it's 2 years away. They know it's going to take 2 years. I've never seen that before. Like, literally, there's very few cases ever from Hot Toys that took 2 years. The Hulkbuster is really the only one that I can think of that took about 2 years. I think it took less than 2 years, but it was almost 2 years. I can't think of another Hot Toy that took 2 years. The only one that's taking a very long time would be Killmonger. Killmonger's taking quite a while. That went on pre-order towards the beginning of summer last year, and it's still not out. And it's been delayed. It already passed its original release date. So Killmonger's taking quite a while, but again, it was because it got delayed. And hopefully that one comes out pretty soon, but at the moment it's not coming out quite yet. So why is Hot Toys now all of a sudden putting figures on pre-order and knowing that they're going to take 2 years, like more than they've ever taken before, and they just know that it's going to happen this time? When it happened the first time with Iron Man, I gave him a pass, and I gave him a pass because this is a unique figure that's based on something that is very much a secret from Endgame, and it's something that they're already making a figure of this character. This is a very specific scene from this character, so I figured, it's understandable that this one would take longer because they probably didn't know about the scene until the movie came out. Like, I doubt that they have any extra knowledge about the scene coming up in the film. They obviously had the knowledge of the stones on his hand, like the gauntlet that Iron Man would wield, but there's no way Hot Toys just said, oh, and this character's gonna die, because that means nothing to Hot Toys as far as, like, they can't make a dying function with their figure. So they would not know that that's the case, and they would not have seen the scene before the movie. So I understand if this was an afterthought, like, this is the movie, the movie came out, and they went back and they went, well, we gotta do this iconic scene, so let's start working on it now. So it was put into production very late. I could see that being the case for sure. Just because of how specific this figure is from that movie. It's an extremely specific scene. It's the most spoiler-heavy scene of the entire movie, so I understand why it would be put into production a little late, and therefore, although I still think the 2-year out is ridiculous, I was a little more understanding about it, because the face sculpt is the same as the other version. The figure itself is the same when it comes to a lot of the overall basic structure is exactly the same. It does have have some different sculpting as far as the battle damage effects to it, and some of the accessories are the same, things like that. But overall, like I kind of went, well, it's crazy that it's 2 years, but I guess I understand why it could be, longer than usual. But now it doesn't seem like that's the case. It doesn't seem like that's the reason anymore, because Mysterio has the same release date, which means that this is kind of, I assume, going to become Hot Toys a more normal type of thing, because Mysterio is not the same. Mysterio, they obviously knew about well before the movie came out. It's not like this figure features anything spoilers for Mysterio. Mysterio is a character that has a lot of spoilers to him in the film. However, this figure does not feature any of those spoilers whatsoever. So they could have released this figure, like months before the movie came out. It would have spoiled nothing. They totally knew the character was coming out. If they decided to make the figure, they should have put it in production before the movie came out, and therefore put them on pre-order like the week that the movie came out. That would be the logical thing to do. And also the most time-consuming thing with a hot toy, the thing that takes the most time, that's hand-painted, that's the most intricate, is the face sculpt, which this figure does not even have. So the thing that's the most time-consuming, this figure, it doesn't have. This should be a figure that comes out sooner than most figures. Like a 10-month release date would be a lot more suited for this figure, in my opinion, because it's relatively easy to do. It's obviously a new sculpt, but it's something that doesn't take a whole lot to sculpt as far as the face sculpt goes, and the face sculpt's the hardest thing to do on the Hot Toys figures. So for this figure to have a 2-year release date is just bonkers. Like, I really don't understand why that's the case, and it just must be the only reason for it is that Hot Toys doesn't have enough staff working to complete the projects that they have going. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, if you have more staff, you're able to put these into production faster. And the fact of the matter is they don't. So either they're just too cheap to get more people working on this, or have more factories start producing this. I don't know what it is, but they've either taken off too much or bitten off too much than they can chew, or they just are too cheap to get the personnel to be able to produce these figures. Because a 2-year release date is insane. Like, for most figures, I won't wait 2 years. And here's a prime example. My Hulkbuster, like the Hulkbuster Hot Toys figure, I had on pre-order at one point. I had that figure on pre-order for several months. I had it on pre-order for like, I'd say 9 months. And then it had a massive 6-month delay. And I thought to myself, because by then I had already, the excitement of the Hulkbuster had worn off a little bit. I still love the Hulkbuster though, so I still wanted it. However, with the extra 6-month delay, knowing that I wouldn't be getting this for another half of a year, I just thought to myself, it's not worth it. I reevaluated it, decided it wasn't worth it, and I canceled my pre-order. With this, you're telling people off the bat that they will have to wait 2 years to get it. So the only person that's going to pre-order this is one that thinks to themselves, Mysterio is just my all-time favorite, and I know in 2 years I'm going to want this, and they'll pre-order it. Or you'll get people that are like, well, this is awesome right now, and they'll go, but 2 years out, I'll have to think about it, and a year from then they'll really re-evaluate it and go, I have to wait another year for this thing, and I'm not even that into it anymore, and they won't get it. So it hurts them overall. I think less people will purchase it, and that is definitely a shame. Same thing with Iron Man. Like, right now, this is a really hot ticket item. But if you look at it later on, although it's from... The one thing that might save this one is that it's from an iconic scene from Iron Man, his last scene as Iron Man. And therefore, that might give it that extra push where people will be like, well, it's still worth it, even then. But, it might... The iconic nature of it might wear off by the time that this figure is even a year out, which is insane. It's crazy to think that a year from now, we'll still only be halfway to getting this. It's just ridiculous. But what's the biggest issue for me is that personally, like, if these were just two normal figures, it wouldn't matter too much. But for me, I absolutely am dying for this Iron Man figure, and I'm dying for this Mysterio figure. So it's very annoying for me that my two must-haves, and I only have a couple must-haves every year. Like, maybe 5 figures come out from Hot Toys that I'm all about, just like, absolutely I have to own them. And it's crazy that 2 of those are the ones that are going to take 2 years. So I really hope that this isn't a permanent trend from Hot Toys where we have to wait an insane amount of time to get our figures. But I really hope that they figure out what issues they have. They've already raised their prices to a point where they're ridiculous, to be quite honest. Like, Hot Toys have always been very expensive. That's just the nature of Hot Toys. They produce some of the best looking, figures out there, or the best looking figures out there. So the high prices have been understandable, but they've gotten to the point where they've raised their prices so much from what they were just a couple of years ago that they're starting to not be worth it anymore. There was a couple of years where I would order about 14 Hot Toys figures a year, like new Hot Toys figures, and now I only have a couple Hot Toys on pre-order at a time, and I like new Hot Toy figures. I maybe get 5 a year now. Like with this last year and this year, I've really like last year I think I only bought 4 new Hot Toys. With this year, I think I only am gonna get like 5 new Hot Toys. So they've cut my business down by like half, more than half actually. So it's just I don't know when they'll hit a point where they're producing too many figures that they can even manage, and the prices are going up so much that people aren't willing to buy them anymore. But we'll see. I'm very disappointed by these release dates, and yeah, let me know what you guys think of them, and thanks so much for watching.